Well, 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 look who's finally crawled out of their ivory tower and admitted that they were wrong about Bitcoin. Larry Fink. That's right, the big cheese at BlackRock, Mr. I don't get this magic internet money himself. He's come full circle. And now BlackRock, the largest asset manager in the freaking universe, is telling the world why Bitcoin matters in their latest report. But wait, folks, it gets better. The Fed's cutting rates, the economy's on the edge of collapse, and somehow, Bitcoin is the last honest thing in the room. How about that? You're gonna want to stay until the finish today because the Fed and their Nostradamus chickens are about to send Bitcoin to 300K. Don't believe me? Well, we have historical data that supports it. Welcome back. I'm Rustin, head of news at Simply Bitcoin, and we have some massively bullish developments to get to. Send it. First off, why don't we talk about the Federal Reserve? You know, the folks who have one job to manage the economy, and they've been screwing it up for 100 years. So now they're going to cut interest rates again. Why? Because they have no other damn idea what to do. It's the economic equivalent of saying, hey, let's throw more gas on this dumpster fire and see if it burns brighter. It's a brilliant plan. Absolutely genius. And newsflash, these rate cuts don't magically fix anything. No, they just pump more air into the fiat balloon. But guess what happens when you pump air into a balloon that's already beyond capacity? Like that button on that fat guy in the little coat. Tommy boy gets it, but eventually it bursts. Oh, and don't worry. They'll just print more money and patch up all the holes. Problem solved, right? Wrong! And that's where Bitcoin comes in. Ah, Bitcoin, the one thing these Wall Street wizards can't manipulate. They can't print it. They can't inflate it. A fixed supply of 21 million, that's it. No central bank, no greasy politician with a printing press. Just math, baby. You either get it or you don't. And guess what? Larry Fink, Mr. Wall Street himself, well, he finally gets it.
As you know, I was a skeptic. Yes. I was a proud skeptic. And I studied it, learned about it, and I came away saying, okay, my opinion 5 years ago was wrong. Here's my opinion today. This is what I believe in today. I believe the opportunity today. I believe Bitcoin is legitimate. I'm not trying to say there's not misuses like everything else, but it is a legitimate financial instrument that allows you to have maybe uncorrelated, non-correlated type of returns. I believe it is an instrument that you invest in when you're more frightened, though. It is an instrument when you believe that countries are debasing their currency, debasing their currency by excess deficits, and some countries are. I believe we have countries where you're frightened of your everyday existence, and if you have an opportunity to invest in something that is outside your country's control, then you can have more financial control. And so I'm a major believer that there is a role for Bitcoin in portfolios. I believe you're going to see that as one of the asset classes that we all look at. I look at it as digital gold, as I said before, and I do believe there's a real need for everyone to look at it as one alternative to, I would say, the optimism that I have in the world. If you want to hedge hope, Bitcoin is not an instrument for hope unless you're hopeful you're going to make a lot of money on it. But I look at it as a vehicle in which you're expressing your financial acumen in something that you're more frightened of the world, you're more frightened of your existence. And I believe there's a great industrial use for it.
Well, congratulations, Larry. You finally did your homework. Looks like you finally read the white paper. 5 years ago, he said Bitcoin was a joke.
Don't your clients want crypto exposure?
No. People are speculating on it. But most importantly, what I think about most of these cryptocurrencies, it just identifies how much money laundering there is being done in the world.
Now he's seeing the beautiful poetry within Satoshi's white paper. I don't know. Just give it time, guys. We might start hearing Larry quoting Satoshi like he's Shakespeare. Has Larry Fink been hanging out with Jack Dorsey?
I think the most beautiful thing about it is there's no one person setting the direction, and there's no one person on the other side that can stop it. So we have something that is pretty organic in nature and very principled in its original design. I think the Bitcoin white paper is one of the most seminal works of computer science in the last 20, 30 years. It's poetry.
All jokes aside, here's the thing. When a guy who runs a company with over $10 trillion in assets and he tells you he was wrong about Bitcoin, it's not just him having some change of heart. Oh no, this is a signal. And it's a big one. I mean, you guys gotta look at this report. BlackRock's not just in the Bitcoin game. They're writing love letters to Satoshi. I mean, check out BlackRock's latest masterpiece, Why Bitcoin? I know it kind of sounds like a self-help book for billionaires. Why Bitcoin? How to stop worrying and embrace the time chain. Well, let me save you the trouble of reading it, because it's all the stuff us Bitcoiners have been saying for years. It's scarce, it's decentralized, it's immune to their endless money printing games, but now when BlackRock says it, suddenly it's legit. Isn't that convenient? You know, I think it just takes some people time to figure out, Bitcoin is the only incorruptible accounting system humans will ever discover. All right, now let's talk numbers, because I know you're wondering, Rustin, where is all this going? With the Fed cutting rates and a recession looming, we're entering the perfect storm for Bitcoin. Make no mistake. With some like Thomas Farrer over here believing, just like gold in previous cycles, Bitcoin could explode in value, even predicting $300,000 Bitcoin. Now, while this might sound crazy, let's break it down. The last time the Fed was this far behind on monetary policy was in 2007. And over the next 4 years, gold went from $700 to $1,900 an ounce. And Bitcoin is set to do the same, just on a much bigger scale, because its supply is fixed. There's only 21 million and adoption is skyrocketing. Now the question is, how is all this likely to play out? Well, as usual, the Fed cuts rates, inflation spikes, the economy tanks, and Bitcoin, it goes through the goddamn roof. $300,000 Bitcoin is in play, and you can bet your ass it's coming. Why? Because when the dollar goes down the drain, where do you think the smart money is gonna go? They're not buying bonds, they're buying Bitcoin like it's the last honest asset on Earth. Because guess what? It is. Sailor's right. Fiat currency is a joke. They can print it, devalue it, control it. Hell, they can inflate it to the point where we're all using wheelbarrows full of cash just to buy a cup of coffee. But Bitcoin doesn't play by their rules.
That applies to not just Bitcoin, but everyone in the digital space. The government is like a legalized form of the mob. In order for you to do the things you want in this country, you got to pay the VIG. Taxes, whatever that might be. They are scared to death of decentralization, because you know what it changes? It restores what this country was built on, which is by the people from the ground up, not from political nightmares like the senator from Massachusetts, who shall now not be named, that literally wants the top down. That's not what this country is based on. That's not our value. We need to make sure that we open this up. Permitting reform, bureaucratic reforms. You're going to have to reduce some of these agencies, and you're going to have to bring the financial legislation that's on the books. You're going to have to bring it into the 21st century. Why do we keep trying to shoehorn this new thing into something that we wrote starting in the 30s? This is a new world. We got to get caught up, and we got to get into the 21st century.
Tom Emmer's spot on. Governments are scared shitless of Bitcoin because it takes away their favorite toy, the power to manipulate money. Do your research. I mean, who said, I care not who writes the laws, give me the control of the currency, Look it up. But Bitcoin puts the control back in the hands of the people where it should have been all along.
I don't believe that we should ever have a good money again before we take the thing out of the hands of government. Then we can't take them violently out of the hands of government. All we can do is, by some sly roundabout way, introduce something they can't stop.
We are seeing more and more companies follow the Michael Saylor strategy, adopting Bitcoin as a treasury asset. Another publicly traded company, Cathedra, has just jumped on board, and this is the start of a trend that will only accelerate as the economy weakens.
Like a rational world is Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, Apple. They all buy Bitcoin with their cash flows. I mean, Apple would be worth an extra $1 trillion, right? If Apple basically started buying $20, $30 billion a year of Bitcoin, they spent $500 billion on their stock. Where would Apple be if they bought $500 billion worth of Bitcoin right now? Granted, it was over a 10-year time period, but if you look at that, right, how do you increase the market cap of Apple or Meta by $1 trillion? And the answer is you start to take your cash flows in your treasury and then you buy a capital asset that's plus 40% a year instead of one that's minus 4% a year. And when that happens, you can see in our macro model, the equity market's going to look good, right? That's going to put a boost in the S&P and the NASDAQ and the Magnificent Seven. I guess my point is, I don't want to be a doomer like Bitcoin good, everything else bad, because the truth is you could say Bitcoin good, equity bad, and bonds bad, but if I actually back the bonds with Bitcoin, and if I back the currency with Bitcoin, and if I back the equity with Bitcoin, then they're all going up. So it's like just Bitcoin better, and everything else is actually going to grow. And that's the argument for Bitcoin just makes the world a better place, right? It's the constructive, cheerful, progressive, grow out of your own problems with a good technology vision, as opposed to this nation is going to melt down its currency and its banks are going to melt down and we're all just going to jump on a lifeboat.
You know, Michael Saylor's vision is simple. Bitcoin is the most valuable asset you can own in an era of economic uncertainty. And as more companies catch on, the price of Bitcoin, well, it's going to soar to levels we never thought possible. 35 trillion in US debt. 35 trillion. It's like a made up number. You know what that is? We'll never pay this off money. James Lavish broke it down. If we paid $1 million an hour, it would take until the year 6047 to clear the debt. 6040 freaking 7. But don't worry, the government's got it all under control, right? Right? Again, that's where Bitcoin comes in because unlike the US government, Bitcoin doesn't have a debt problem. It doesn't owe anyone anything. It's hard money and it can't be messed with. My friends, if Gordon Gekko were here right now, he'd tell you volatility is good. It's true. People freak out every time Bitcoin dips, but Adam Back gets it. Volatility shakes out the weak hands and leaves the diamond hand hodlers. And those are the people that are going to be here when Bitcoin hits 300K, 500K, $1 million. And those weak hands, well, they're just going to be left holding their worthless cuck bucks. So here's the deal. BlackRock's on board. Larry Fink finally woke up. And the Fed is about to make the same stupid mistake they've always made. The economy heading for the toilet. But Bitcoin, well, it's the one thing they can't screw with. It's scarce, it's decentralized, and it's out of their control. 300K Bitcoin isn't a dream, it's inevitable. And if you're not stacking sats now, you're going to be kicking yourself later. Hey, if you're new to Bitcoin or want to learn how to self-custody your Bitcoin, that is the revolution, by the way, we got just the guys to get you covered. Let's take a minute to recognize our sponsors, the Bitcoin Way. Simply Bitcoin Originals are powered by the Bitcoin Way. They bring over 25 years of cybersecurity experience. They are your IT team in the Bitcoin world. They help bridge that gap from the why Bitcoin to the how Bitcoin. And as your dedicated Bitcoin IT team, the Bitcoin Way is here to guide you from start to finish on your journey to properly self-custody your Bitcoin. From your first wallet node to advanced multi-sig security, inheritance planning, and much more, the Bitcoin Way has got you covered. And if you're looking to get started, you can schedule a free 30-minute consultation using that link below. My lads, it's time to get off our arses and stack some sats. And also stop trusting the same idiots who got us into this mess in the first place. This is our chance to break free from their little game. So hit that subscribe button, smash the like, give us a pamp, share that sound money gospel, and I'll see you all next time. Well, if the Fed hasn't printed us into oblivion by then. Peace.
If you prefer to go down with the ship, you.